Here.
Alderpersons Clem,
Here.
McClanathan,
Here.
Ross,
Here.
Smith, Busker,
Here.
Brashaw,
Here.
Keister is absent, and Alderperson Chesney.
Here. Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Alderperson Brashaw, second by Alderman Clem. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item number 5, approval of the minutes from the March 12th, 2018 Finance Committee of the Whole meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Alderperson Brashaw and second by Alderman Busker. Any comments or discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Are there any public comments for the 5 o'clock meeting? Nothing? All right, moving on then to item number 7, presentation of the TIFs and the remaining budget by City Manager Crow and Director Bucus. Manager Crow, Director Bucus.
So, before we start off, I want to thank I've put the department heads through a lot of work over the last 7 days, and you'll see at the end, we've done some, and we're going to talk to the council about an executive session about some of the items that we're going to talk about. The remaining budget. So the items of interest within dealing with our TIF. Downtown TIF, as you know, we only have 2 really TIFs that are making an increment right now, the Lamb Road TIF and the downtown TIF. So one of the things that was approached, and this came out of an initiative actually in last year's budget, was to generate this $1 million bond, which the banks are going to, U.S. Bank's going to match $1 million, and the other bank's going to match an additional $1 million, local banks, to generate growth in the downtown. We have $75,000 set aside in the downtown TIF to do that. We have $20,000 towards facade. Right now we have $10,000 from a matching grant from Paint the Port. That may go up depending on, but that's what we generated last year. There's $25,000 generated towards the NewCo organization, and the remainder covers the RDAs that we have, as well as Joe's Wall and the current bonds we have there. So we downtown TIF is set aside extensively. Lamb Road TIF, we have $150,000 set aside for the new corporation. There's another $50,000 for other professional services. We have about $300,000 that is set aside for current existing TIFs, or excuse me, RDAs. So West Avenue TIF with $25,000 for the NewCo, and as I talked about, and we're having, for everybody's information here, the first board meeting of the new consolidated organization is meeting on Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Lamb Road TIF and downtown TIFs, as I talked about, the only ones generating. When we talk about downtown TIF, it's kind of what we went through. The professional services, $25,000 of that is set aside for support of the NewCo. The $60,000 covers Joe's Wall, the TIF that we have, the RDA we have for the tear down of the building and some additional work, and then the business assistance, and that basically covers, and the transfer to debt service, what we have in this TIF. Lamb Road TIF, talked about this. This is where we're really generating a lot of increment, and we've got financing costs. These are costs for RDAs. Site improvement and rehabilitation are also RDAs that we have there. And then we have $200,000, of which $150,000 is set aside for NewCo. West Avenue TIF, again, professional services, site rehabilitation, and site improvement for $64,000. Now you'll watch The other two TIFs have less than $2,000 total money that's being generated out of them. And we're actually looking at maybe if we, in the future, disestablishing those TIFs and reestablish them, remaking them to generate more increment as we go forward. Okay. Some grants. This is what our current revenue and our grants and expenditures that we have. The big one is always the DOPA grant, and then the DOJ grant. We have a total of abandoned properties demo. We have close to 500,000 set aside. That being said, we're still waiting on the final resolution on the abandoned property grants. They should be awarding that in the next couple weeks. One of those blight reduction grants, the IDNR flood mitigation grant, is dedicated to east of the Pecatonica. We also have $10,000 towards the canine grant and passenger seat. One of the things you'll notice as we've gone is we've pulled one grant out of here, and that's the grant for the ambulance, because when we look through as part of the reduction in cost, the match, we pulled that match out of there, so we've dropped that grant out of the table. So that's $64,000 to bring it back in against expenses. So it's one of the things we looked at. Other,
Manager Crowe?
yeah,
Not to didn't mean to interrupt you on the roll, but does that completely eliminate it, or is it, I mean, if it comes back to us, we just have to create the funds for it?
that's correct. We
Okay.
haven't withdrawn the grant, but we're recommending is once we don't have the money, is to not accept the grant. So we haven't plugged that in to the finances because the expenses in the general fund are not there. So that was one of the things we did here. We said where we were going to make we made a recommendation to you guys not to the council is not to plan on accepting that grant. Some other ones we have here, MFT. So we have revenue, expenses, $630,000. We already went through the MFT budget. Revolving loan, this is the $368,000 loan that we have to give out 2 grants here by the end of next year. We get an administrative fee out of that of $24,000 that we can put into our fund, which is revenue set aside. Capital equipment, we've already briefed that. Fire improvement, we will be bringing an ordinance in front of council on the fire improvement grant. The council, the one that you had previously approved to divide it 60-40 expired this year. So we're going to bring it back forward in front on the 5th of April to again put it 60% towards the general fund, 40% towards fire improvement. Neighborhood housing, that's where the additional we've made some adjustments. It's where the additional demos have come out of last year, and then they'll come out again this year that are outside the grant and money. Health and environment, we talked about the health fund and health care. We've previously briefed the foreign fire fund. This is expended at there's rules on how we can expend it to the improvement of the fire service, and that's done with representatives from the union as well as the fire chief as we go forward.
How is that funded, Lowell?
That's come out, what it is, foreign fire, and I'll let Chief go into more details on what it is, but it's basically if an insurance company outside the state sells fire insurance inside the state, they are charged basically an excise tax on that. And that's returned back to the community, right?
Yep.
It's a 2% tax on that, so all of that money then comes back into the state. It's distributed through the fire marshal's office to each jurisdiction and by population, and roughly ours gets about $32,000, $34,000 per year.
Follow-up, Chair.
Go ahead. Oh,
It says 54,000 here.
correct. So right now, we're still in the middle of a budget, so it's showing the money from this year that has not been spent, and then also.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, and then drug forfeiture money, this is anticipated money that goes back, that drug forfeiture sorry, I'm having problems with that, has to go back and be spent within the police department. The tourism and promotion, so this is actually broken up into two things. 40,000 of this has to go back and pay for the debt service on the visitor center, and the remainder will be going to NewCo as part of the new organization. So about 219,000 is gone into the new corporation, and so they'll have a consolidated. They have a consolidated fund of about 450,000 from the city, but it's all out of TIF and tourism.
Alderman Chesney.
Thanks. Well, one concern about the budget, and I'm working off memory, but my understanding is we were funding NIDA at about 100,000. It was 100,000, and then we withdrew our funding from FDDF, and now we're going to be spending on economic development another about 100,000. So this proposal appears, while the merger I support, the expenses have doubled. So why are we doing that?
Well, so what we're trying to get the new corporation off the ground. So they've asked us this year, as we start out, to help them get going, making sure that it's successful out of the block. They've asked for additional funding from us this year.
Great.
As we go forward. And since it's all TIF, none of it's coming out of the general fund, it's all coming out of TIF and hotel motel tax.
Chair?
Go ahead.
Okay, now, but it's still taxpayer dollars, so funds are, and great to talk about, but these are still dollars that we're spending. How much is the school district putting in? How much is the county putting in additional? You know, we seem to spend our dollars first, and we need to make sure that every taxing body is coming to the table, because people in Freeport are disproportionately paying a lot higher rates. So no problem if we're going to spend it, but how much more did the county put in?
County up there to 50,000 this year.
Okay, so we're going to contribute about 400,000, and the county's going to do 50. That doesn't bother you?
It does.
Okay.
It does, and that's one of the reasons why I'm asking. I'm having a meeting tomorrow with the chairman and Brian Helms and the county administrator to see if we can finance because some of the airport road out of their TIF money coming from Millrace TIF, because the other thing that's happening is we're giving the county $188,000 out of Lamb Road TIF.
And Manager Crowe, going back to the numbers initially, the numbers you're using on that is not necessarily an increase off of what we were already spending. When you take the CVB and all that into it, that was money that was going hotel motel and was already being expended from one of the organizations that's being consolidated, correct?
Right. The hotel motel tax was already all going to the CVB, as well as 40,000 to the visitor center. We had this year, under the agreement that we had originally established, FDDF was supposed to get 40,000. And then we had another amount of money dedicated to Collaborate Freeport as a single entity. They have to go back and pull the exact figure. And then we had 100,000 set aside for NIDA. So what we've done is brought those funds under a single organization as we go forward.
But FDDF, Chair?
Go ahead.
FDDF, this was the last year we were
Right,
going to
this
pay.
year was
So,
the last year funding.
so my understanding is Collaborate Freeport and NIDA were the only two entities that we were going to fund to the tune of approximately 130,000.
Well, no, the agreement was that we funded FDDF last year for 20,000, and then this year it was set aside for 40,000.
Okay. But we're still increasing the overall economic dollars.
That's correct.
Okay, but shouldn't we be going the other way because we're consolidating and making it more efficient and having less people?
So I do agree with you that was one of the goals here. We're going forward, but we want to make sure as we go out that it is successful in this first kickoff year. So that was why they've asked us to make sure that they have a good start and good amount of money to get that started. And they're going forward and asking the county to even provide more money next year as we go forward. So there's a better split between the two organizations.
Manager Crow, historically, if we wanted to, we could have used the hotel motel tax, approximately 270, 280,000 for any tourism-related purpose.
FDDF.
And it didn't necessarily need to go just to the CVB. Now granted, while in practice it did, so what we're not doubling the expenses for economic development in this year. Rather, we're taking those the entity, the CVB, FDDF that we had 1 year of funding left, and NIDA that we had the funding left, and all these other things, and we're putting it in one entity, but you're not doubling or increasing the dollars of what was expended for economic development, tourism, events then over the last year, correct?
That's correct. We also spent money out of the TIF to fund Ellers, where this new organization would also, we would not be the one to contracting Ellers, the new organization would be doing all of our contracting for us, so that they would come to us with a finished product and recommendation.
How much more, Chair?
Go ahead.
How much more are we contributing to economic development than last year? It's like
It's
50,
almost exactly the same once you bring Ellers, the money that we've spent on Ellers and the research and some of the other professional, the development of the streetscaping, all of that money that was taken out of TIF to do those different bodies is almost exactly dollar for dollar.
no, I'm not talking about Ellers, that's a separate project. We have NIDA, we have FDDF, we have Collaborate Freeport and the CVB. I'm seeing from the numbers that our expenses are going up on those four buckets.
So when we combine these four organizations together, we also said you are going to be, and we built the organization so that they will also do the planning for the city, similar to the streetscaping, that they would be tasked to do the economic research that Ellers is doing for us. So when we looked at the overall amount of money that we had spent on economic development out of the TIF funds for professional services, we're going to give that to a single organization, and that's it. So we're not going to spend additional money on Ellers. We're not going to spend additional money for a planner. It's that organization's going to provide all of that to us.
At the end of the day, the idea was for year one to basically level out last year's spending with this next budget year's spending, whatever the source, TIF, general fund, CVB, hotel motel tax, things of that nature.
Yes.
So to level out for this year, being year one,
Yeah.
and you feel like you've accomplished that.
I feel like I've accomplished that.
Mr.
Alderman Smith.
During your last presentation, we heard that the state was in arrears to us on the grant side for considerable money, and we're counting on revenue on the grant side. What's the likelihood we're gonna receive that money within the fiscal year?
Well, we're not sure when. What they're telling us is there's about a year behind in delivering the money for the demo projects. We expect that money. We're currently covering that money out of our basically our cash balance, not our so we are carrying in our accounts. So that will, when we get that money, I shouldn't say it. When we get that money, we will replenish those cash. And they're not reserves, but it's in the revolving cash. What we're being told is they're about a year behind in delivering that money.
Go ahead.
Sure. But if they're a year behind, I guess, I'm just trying to get my mind around it. So if they're a year behind and they deliver what they owe us from last fiscal year this year, don't we start from the same hole?
I guess I'm not sure I understand.
Well,
We have money that was in our account.
right.
And we covered those bills. So that money is going to be replenished when we receive the last ones. That's why at this point we've stopped demos because we don't have
Right.
the money to cover that.
But on the revenue side of the budget
Right.
summary,
For grants.
so for grants. So none of these monies counted as revenue are accounted for back payments from the state?
No,
Okay.
that's all new money. That's all new money.
Alderperson Bradshaw.
Thank you, Chair. Manager Crowe, I was hoping that you could just give us like a little short flow chart, not tonight, but another time, about where the monies are being spent for, with the tourism dollars, FDDF, NIDA, and all that, just so we can show that we are approximately spending the same. I understand that sometimes we have to spend a little bit more to get someplace off the ground, but
So what I can do is, on the tourism, I can give you how much we're giving to the visitor center and how much we're giving to the CVB right now. I can't, I don't know, Randy, do they give us a breakdown of what they're spending other than coming in and asking us for more money on that?
We get a budget from them, and then they kind of ask every month for about $25,000.
And they report, under the current guidance, the CVB comes back and files a report in September, twice a year with us, so we know where their expenditures are. NIDA gives us every quarter a full breakdown. What I can do is I can say, all right, this is what we spent on this economic development going back to you.
Chair?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm not trying to give you a hard time or anything. I was just thinking, this might help us for explaining it to our constituents too. If they say, well, how come this new cow seems to be costing so much more? We can say, well, this is what the money was spent last year, divided amongst all these organizations. This is what it is this year. It might be a little bit more the first year, but that way we'll have a little bit of backbone
Okay.
too to,
I don't have a problem doing that.
thank you.
Hey, Bert?
Gotta click off the next.
It's frozen. What's that?
Actually, shared.
Oh, there we go. Okay, good news. With what I'm going to do, we estimate our revenues now at 17,510,000, which is, what we did was we looked at where this came from. Is we have an increase in sales tax, increase in police, sale of the old fire station, and then change in the fire improvement distribution. This requires the adoption of the ordinance. We are also going to have to declare the fire station in surplus. You had declared it surplus in 2016, but you put an end, the council put an end date of the end of that year to sell that fire station. We're going to do a closed bid. We have gotten some interest on that, and so that approximated revenue, I'll be bringing that ordinance to you on the 5th to approve, so then we can go out to close bid on that. Expenses, we've been cutting the expenses across the board. Much of these expenses, there are some expenses that are being cut. We talked about the ambulance. There have been some, each one of the departments have cut down some expenses as we've gone forward, and we're also going to do some restructuring in the staff, which I would prefer to discuss with council and executive session that I've proposed to go forward. And we have that on the agenda to discuss with you in executive session. But right now, we have a general balanced budget is going into, if you approve the restructuring of the staff that we're going to present to you in executive session. So with that, open for more questions, and I will get back to you on the economic breakdown, the economic development.
Chair? Go
Alderman
ahead, Tom.
Chesney, or Alderman Clem.
Just one that I noted as we were going through here. One place, and I used to be on that committee, but it's been a while, and I don't know all the statuses of stuff. But in the revolving loan fund,
Yes.
okay, I think there could be one or two revolving loans out there that are no longer producing jobs, et cetera, and
So what's happened on the revolving loan? The state of Illinois has said, all right, you have $368,000 in the revolving loan, and then you have a percentage of those that we have for outstanding loans. We've gone and identified those, and then by the 1st of January of 2019, we have to have those assigned. The remaining revolving loan, that money, we're allowed to give 2 grants out on the revolving loan, and we're allowed to take administrative fees for that. And whatever's left in the revolving loan, they will sweep. And if we have to show that we've made every effort to have collected the remaining outstanding loans. Currently, we actually have, I think we looked at a total of 8 loans. 6 of them have been foreclosed on.
on properties that were foreclosed on. We have one clear back to 1998, which one of our, and they're all being covered by current, attorneys in here. And we have paperwork we are in the process of filing with the state to make sure that 368,000 can be used. We have 2 projects which we'll bring in front of the city council that we are proposing for RDAs going forward. In fact, I met with one of the groups today to use that. You still have to meet the requirements of the revolving loan of generating 1 job per $15,000 or attacking a blighted area to improve a blighted area.
Okay. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Alderman Chesney.
Thank you. And I just, Lowell, I want to echo
Yep.
Alderperson Bradshaw's comments on economic development. At least my understanding was when we discussed this was going to yield some savings. Certainly don't want to go up. At a minimum, stay the same. Even a few ticks down would be my preference. But I think to really lay that out so we can explain it, because, you know, and I want to reiterate that just because a dollar's come out of TIF doesn't mean it's less of a taxpayer dollar.
No, I understand.
Okay.
I understand.
Okay, a lot of times we talk
No.
in funds, and it's still
It's,
Freeport or somebody's money, and it's largely our money. So.
it is Freeport money. I mean, we can
Okay.
use that for everything, but you know, one of the things is when we built the organization, as we went forward in building that organization, was we looked at also everything we were spending for contract services and said, all right, you are going to take over those contract services. So I'll lay that out. I mean, an example is we spent close to $37,000 for Ellers for the redoing at the downtown TIF, and then for the business district it was about $30,000. So as we went forward, and the streetscaping was about $9,000. So all that would be included in that organization.
Alderman Clem.
Just a quick one also, and maybe I had missed it at the time. Lamb Road TIF.
Yep.
Okay. You've got $100,000 in there for site improvement. Okay. Is that earmarked for anything special or in general?
No, we've been approached by the possibility of another strip mall being developed in the area, so we've set aside money if that needs to be done in that area for site improvement.
And that TIF stops before the Millrace TIF, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, what surprised me when we started really getting in this, so we give $188,000 out of our TIF money to the county back every year. And on top of that, we pay them $44,000 in taxes out of, for the rental, for the sales of fuel and the rental of hangars at the airport. So what I'm going to do is ask them to fund the $110,000 for the airport road, so we can do that out of the Millrace TIF, because I know they want to do some additional projects for solar out there and some other projects they've got. But that's the big revenue generator for them, is the airport right now.
Okay.
Alderman Chesney.
Thank you. Lowell, just final comments. One is I'd just like to compliment you and your staff. I don't think many people understand the challenges that we have from the state and the impact that their reductions have on local budgets. So I know that you and your team have worked a lot of hours to make this happen, and we'll be discussing this more in executive session, so thank you for that. Are these, the numbers that we've received today, is this your reasonably firm proposed budget?
It is. This is our reason. If, like I said, this is our reasonably for the general fund. This is our reasonably, and for the water and sewer. I don't know. Randy, did we hand out water and sewer here?
No, I did not tonight.
Okay. We will forward you the whole fund. We were still making some changes within the capital funds for water and sewer as of today, but we have the budget from the general fund budget, which you have in front of you, is what we're going to propose is our final budget, if you agree with what we're going to propose in executive session.
Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Lowell, on this budget, and I apologize, I had to use the restroom quickly, so maybe the question was asked. Did we, what do we have for demolitions?
So we have the $204,000 set aside in community neighborhood funds. We have an additional, we have about $400,000 in grants, and then, if not more, actually, it's more than that.
I thought it was 345.
No, plus the 250, plus the 85,000. So we have about 700,000. So there's about, I would say, about $800,000 right now in the overall. We've put a little bit of fluff between what the expenses on the budget and what the revenue is on the budget. We've got about 100,000 there, so we could use some additional 100,000 into demos.
Chair.
Alderman Chesney.
Do we have any general fund dollars dedicated?
Currently, we do not.
Okay, and then what is the anticipated demolition rate that we're gonna have under the current proposed budget, absent any general funds?
Absent any general funds, we're going to be demoing about 50 homes in this
In this calendar year?
in this calendar year.
Okay,
Or the guidance I gave them was to demo it under the fiscal year understanding, because that, when we talk about demoing in calendar year, because we've run into some issues in dealing with the money so that's why, if you want me to go to calendar year, we can move those funds up and expend them earlier in the fiscal year as we go forward.
Chair. And then do we have any additional funds dedicated to our roads in the proposed budget?
Not right now.
Okay. And then personnel will talk in executive session.
Right.
So, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Chair.
Alderman Smith.
On the revenue side, I know it's just a bullet point, but there's mention of increase in sales tax. Are we
What?
seeing an increase in our sales tax revenues?
So what we did was we looked at the last 3 years as a projection and looked at where we were trending in the averages as we went forward. Our initial prediction on sales tax was low, so we went back and adjusted that.
So it's based on actual experience.
It's correct.
And increase in PD fines, how,
Again, we went back over what we did was we've looked at all of the funds as a whole and looked at where we were trending over the last 3 years. And so what we looked at was those funds that we have seen stay average or increase, we've increased the revenue on that. And those that were decreasing, we stayed with our number that we had projected.
so you're confident these are, I know they're not concrete numbers, but these expectations of increased revenues under these categories is pretty solid?
Yes.
Okay.
Additional comments or discussion? All right, Manager Crowe, coming out of our executive session in our next meeting, then you'll probably have some feedback and guidance from us. You anticipate we have, I think, scheduled next week for one kind of final.
I'll discuss it with you. If I get approval to go where I want to with the executive session, and what I'll have is I have each one of the department heads that have made a proposal dealing with personnel standing by on restructuring, and we'll bring them in as we go forward, and I'll lay it out right from the very beginning what we're doing and what we're proposing going forward. If we get that approved, I'll talk with you as to whether you want to re-see all the budgets, because the minor change was in the capital fund, and I'll put it out here, was we broke out the new wells, construction of the new wells. It was grouped together, so that line item, that was the big change in the capital fund, the only big change in the capital fund.
I think that, if I recall from prior versions, had around 660,000 budgeted for
Yes.
this year. Now it's broken out per project on
Yes.
the well. Okay, and there's about 600,000 for new pipe and things
New
of that
pipe,
nature. That's
yeah.
still in there?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Anything further on budget discussion? No? Okay, public comments on the finance cow. All right, is there, Bernie, all right.
This is going to be real quick. Bernie Revelle at 1310 South Galena. I think a lot of the work that this budget has been gone through is pretty good. I'm kind of impressed in a way. But this board's been here for a few years now. And if we pull IDES's numbers for I did a comparison from December of 14 to December of 18. We've lost like 1,300 employment. Our labor force is down. Our unemployment rate is down to 4.9%. But if you included those people in the current unemployment numbers, we would be about a 17% unemployment rate. Walking the streets this little bit of time, there's a lot of homes that are vacant. And it's just ironic that today's news talked about a housing shortage in this country of about 400,000 brand new homes. Based upon population increases, we need about 1.3 million homes. We need to be thinking in terms of how to attract and build this city so we don't lose more and more people. You were talking about NIDA and economic development. I think that's an investment that we got to make. And we've got to have a real good direction going forward. Your income tax is that you receive probably will reflect the lower numbers. I think you ended up to about 2.3 million, 2.4 million. That might be on the high side if these are coming through. Good news is the state's budget is like 2 years ago there were $17 billion in past due bills. They're down to about 9.2 billion now. So there's some progress being made there. We need to be thinking beyond this budget, I guess is my message. This needs to be bare bones. We need infrastructure improvements, water, sewer, and streets. And finally, there was an accident on Winter Drive. A telephone pole was hit. A month ago, debris was still on the sidewalk. Kids were playing in it when I was walking through. And I was wondering why the tow truck drivers that moved the car didn't take care of it. ComEd should have probably taken care of it. But the new resident across the street actually had to end up cleaning it up. Having said that, good work on the budget. All right?
Thank you, Bernie.
Any further additional public comments for the Finance Committee of the whole meeting? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
By Busker, second by Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Not a big tea drinker, but it helps. Really worried about this next one. Coming down. I'm really worried about the next meeting. Well, because of the 1% sales tax. Marketing's been on fire. For weeks and
Pastor Dixie, could you please give us the invocation this evening?
I'm reading out of the Passion Translation. It's a new one that is full of passion. It's Psalm 37. The title is A Song of Wisdom, which we pray for you guys often. Quiet your heart in his presence and pray. Keep hope alive as you long for God to come through for you. And don't think for a moment that the wicked in their prosperity are better off than you. Stay away from anger and revenge. Keep envy far from you, for it only leads you into lies. For one day the wicked will be destroyed, but those who trust in the Lord will live safe and sound with blessings overflowing. And we just start out saying, Father, we do trust. We trust in you. We're going to put it on every public building and every public car, that we trust in you. And so, Father, for all the concerns that we have over the city, you already have the answer for it. So we're calling in the answers from your throne. We're calling in the answers for every department and every alderman. We're asking, Father, for you to so totally rule and reign over this city, because we're declaring everywhere that in God we trust. And we even to the point, Father, that we are declaring even right now from this high place of authority in government, that we say no to murder coming into our city from Rockford or any other place. We put a stop to the drugs that want to come into our city in Jesus Christ's name. Lord, we just declare and decree that you are going to uncover every drug house, every drug deal. You're going to shine your light on it, and our city is going to be a clean city. Even to the point, Father, that we even rebuke from this place of authority the shootings that continually go on, and we put a stop to that in the name of Jesus Christ. We declare, Lord, you are sovereign, and we want a quiet, peaceful city in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Now that it's 6 o'clock, we'll officially call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Alderpersons Ross,
Here.
Smith, he was here, Busker,
Here.
Brashaw,
Here.
Keister is absent, Chesney,
Here?
Clem,
Here.
McClanathan,
Thank you. If you could join us with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alderman Ross.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we will start with the approval of the agenda.
Mayor Miller?
Alderman McClanathan.
I'd make a motion to amend the agenda, and I would move to amend the agenda by moving to table ordinance or item number 5, 6, and 7 relating to the Galena Corridor Business District and the Business District Retailer's Occupation Tax.
Second.
And I would move to table it indefinitely at this time.
Do we have a second for that motion?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion made by Alderman McClanathan, seconded by Alderman Clem to table items 5, 6, and 7 indefinitely concerning the business district in the Northwest Corridor. So, Madam Clerk, could you take
you want to roll?
yes.
Okay. Alderperson Ross,
Motion to table indefinitely.
just to approve the amended agenda. Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Chesney,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
and McClanathan.
Aye.
That passes 6-0.
Thank you. Then I will need a motion to approve the amended agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Alderperson Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Busker to approve the agenda as so amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Next, we have the approval of the minutes from March 5th, 2018. Is there a motion for the approval on the minutes?
So moved.
Second it.
We have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Ross for the approval of the minutes for March 5th, 2018. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
Mayor, my apologies.
Yes.
Going back to item 2 on the agenda for it as amended, who was the motion in the second, please?
The amended was McClanathan, seconded by Clem.
Thank you.
And then public comments. Since none of the names that are listed are on agenda items, each one of you are welcome to speak at the end if you'd like. So then item number 4 is the consent agenda, and all the items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and acted as one unless there's a member of the council that would like to have something removed for further discussion. Is there any item to be removed? Seeing none, we have the approval to receive and place on file the City Treasurer's Report, February 28th, 2018, the City of Freeport Police Department reports of activities for January and February 2018, the City of Freeport Fire Department Incident and Loss Report for February 2018, the finance reports for the General Fund, Library, Water, Sewer, Storm Sewer Fund for February 2018, and the approval of the finance bills payable in the total of $739,623.81, and the approval of the payroll for pay period ending March 3rd, 2018, in the total of $471,963.35. Is there a motion for the approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
A motion made by Alderperson Busker and seconded by Alderman Clem for the approval of the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll for the approval of the consent agenda?
Ross?
Aye.
Busker?
Aye.
Brashaw?
Aye.
Chesney?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
And McClanathan?
Aye.
And that passes 6-0.
Thank you. So we will move on to item number 8, which is the adoption of Resolution 2018-16. Madam Clerk, could you please read this for the record?
Resolution endorsing the city manager or authorized designee to sign a competitively bid contract for the retail supply of electric for residential and small business customers in Freeport.
Thank you. Manager Crowe.
Yes, this is our annual resolution to authorize for the competitive bid for aggregation with, sorry, I'm behind here. For aggregation for the community based upon what we had agreed upon in a previously passed ordinance within the city. And it's New Energy is our, Constellation New Energy is a company that we work with currently, but Rock River Energy wants to solicit bids out across in here at the end of March and the beginning of April to authorize, see if we can get a better deal than our Constellation Energy. Our Constellation Energy New Energy contract is up as of the end of June. So my recommendation is to go ahead and approve it. I have done in my previous community, I did as well the negotiations as we went forward.
Chair. Or
Alderman
Mayor,
Chesney.
sorry, Mayor. Manager Crowe, the electrical aggregation, we're not going to have any grant blocks in this, right?
Any?
Grants?
No, we're not.
Also known as a tax?
No.
They say a grant, but it's really a tax.
No, there is no tax. This is straight savings.
Oh, all right.
I did get asked that, and I said no.
Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan.
so he's going to go out and solicit bids, and are you asking in this resolution for the authority then to pick one when he comes back? Or are you going to bring back options to him?
No, it's to pick one the best bid
Okay.
possible.
Best bid without any of those block grants or
That's
community
correct.
grants? Okay, all right.
Mayor?
Alderman Bradshaw.
Thank you. Manager Crowe, are you looking just for another one-year contract?
And that's the goal, is 1 year.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Okay, we have a motion made by Alderman McClanathan, seconded by Alderman Busker. Oh, it was Clem? Oh, I'm sorry.
You can have
Sorry about that, Tom.
It's okay.
First made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Busker. Is there any further discussion on this resolution?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I know we worked with Rock River Energy before, and you're familiar with this, but we just recently signed one at our church at a considerable difference from what it was last year over a 3-year period with them. And it went quite well, so, just keep us posted, I guess. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the passage of the adoption for Resolution 2018-16?
Ross.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Chesney.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
And the resolution is adopted 6-0.
Thank you. Item number 9 is the adoption of Resolution 2018-17. And could you please read this for the record?
Resolution for maintenance of streets and highways by municipality under the Illinois Highway Code, Section 18-00000-00-GM.
Thank you. Director Carr.
Yes, this is the annual paperwork resolution that we have to sign as a city or a municipality to appropriate our MFT funds. Once you guys pass the resolution, then we have to send it to IDOT and get their blessing, and then it starts the whole bidding process on materials and projects. Mayor?
Alderman Chesney.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Chesney, seconded by Alderman Busker for the adoption of Resolution 2018-17. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Ross.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Chesney.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
Resolution is adopted 6-0.
Thank you. Next is the reports of department heads. Finance.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing to report tonight.
Thank you. Public Works.
Your Honor, nothing at this moment.
Thank you. Fire.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things. Just the ambulance, we had collections. We sent $3,500 to collections this last month, and we wrote off just over $500. And starting to receive in some of the collections from October through December, about $2,000 right now from collections from that time period. That's all.
Mayor?
Thank you. Yeah, Alderman Chesney.
Thanks, Chief. When it comes to collections of services for ambulances, does our ordinance allow you some discretion for hardships, et cetera?
The criteria I've been given is we want to give consideration to some of the people, the elderly, people that have limited resources. So if the insurance has made an attempt to pay, and then we have a little bit left over, typically we'll write those fees off.
So is that a yes?
I haven't seen it in the ordinance.
Oh,
so,
but
just the direction
I just want
I've
to
been
make sure it
given.
gives you some, your understanding is you get a little flexibility on that?
Correct, that's my
Good,
understanding.
good.
Yep. Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you. Police.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The only announcement I have is just remember to get out and vote tomorrow and let your voice be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Water and Sewer.
Madam Mayor, could I?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Chief, and your department for some of the police work that was done last week. Great job. I know that you guys have a difficult one, but when you take and look at some of the busts you make, you think, boy, I'm glad I'm sitting at home.
Well,
But thank you for all that you guys did last week.
okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Water and Sewer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The only thing I have to report tonight is that the drilling of our test wells is going satisfactorily, and they're making good headway.
Thank you. IT. None? Then that looks like Manager Crowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple things. Nancy will be out until next week. Just I talked with her today. She has a grade 3 concussion, so send our thoughts and prayers to her. We are working, we didn't, since Tom didn't mention it, we are getting, the VFD is under warranty. We are having somebody come in tomorrow to work at it. We are currently coordinating, and we shouldn't have any issues with water. We informed all of the fire department's been informed in case we have a major fire, but it shouldn't be an issue as we go forward. And other than that, that's all I've got, Mayor.
Thank you. Just in agreement with Chief, tomorrow is not only voting, but it's also the first day of spring. So yes, I totally agree. Local elections matter, so please remember to vote. Alderman Ross.
Nothing at this time.
Alderman Busker.
The only we got the neighborhood watch at the First Church of the Nazarene tomorrow night at 6.
Thank you. Alderman Brashaw.
Thank you, Mayor. I know a lot of business owners in Freeport have been talking about cleaning up the town, and they've challenged their employees to help them clean up their businesses. Well, I say this every spring, but I would like our constituents to help pick up their yards, help pick up their neighbors' yards, pick up the trash in Freeport, because when that snow melts, it just isn't very pretty. I hope everybody can get out there when the weather's nice here and make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Chesney.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Alderman Clem.
I'll just follow up also with the, make sure you vote tomorrow. It's one of the most important rights you've got. In fact, it's one of the few left that we as Americans can do and take part in. So I'd emphasize, doesn't matter who, please go out and vote. Also, we'll have a neighborhood watch on, for the first ward at the 27th on, at the Schwartz Chapel. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman McClanathan.
I concur, join in with get out and vote sentiments.
Thank you very much. So we will conclude with public comments. Are there any public comments? Tommy.
I want to wish all the teams from Freeport got first place the basketball team this weekend. Yeah, this weekend, Joey.
There are ones that are playing this weekend, you said?
Yeah, at Freeport Special Olympics, they had that.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Are you playing?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to play snowshoeing, but not.
Okay, thank you, Tommy. Are there any of the public comments?
Good evening. My name is Wendy Pearson, 711 South Carroll. I was born November of 1959. The year I was born, April 6, 1959, the east side of Freeport flooded. The depth of the Pecatonica hit 16.90 feet. Some 59 years later, Freeport's east side residents are still being devastated by flooding. Yet Freeport says they're all in. What is Freeport all in? Is it an exclusive club of individuals that, like many of the slogans that have surfaced and disappeared over the time, talking a good game, doing nothing, filled with big businesses leaving out mom and pop, filled with nepotism, leaving out the poor, filled with hand-selected board members that make decisions for everyone else. Without the input of the most affected. East Side residents labor, just as West Side, West End, South End, and downtown and elected officials. Are we all in for all of Freeport? Do we fight for the lives of all of Freeport? Or just some of Freeport? Some of you are elected officials, are a part of All In. All In, let me say this, 59 plus years ago, and later we have taxpayers who aren't able to go back into their homes because of flooding. How is this possible? When we're all supposed to be all in. I say to elected officials and to all of us that are concerned, it's past time that this problem that affects all of us, the least of us, that it's time that we fix this problem.
Wendy, thank you for your comments. Your time has expired.
I think you guys got the gist of what I'm saying to you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
I don't think you want to hear what I have to say because it's true. Thank you, Jody.
Are there any other public comments? Seeing none, we will move on to item number 15, which is the executive session. Madam Clerk, could you please read this for the record?
Pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. Pursuant to 5 ILCS 122C2, collective negotiation matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. Pursuant to 5 ILCS 122C21, discussions of minutes lawfully closed under this act, whether for purposes of approval by the body of the minutes or semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated by Section 2.06. Action will follow on that third item.
Thank you. Is there a motion to enter into the executive session?
So moved.
Seconded.
We have a motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Ross, to move into executive session. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Ross?
Aye.
Busker?
Aye.
Brashaw?
Aye.
Chesney?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
McClanathan?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
City Council.
Yeah.
Joey, move.
Tommy, how are you? What you got?